Reinvigorating local government or a blow to frontline services, our special report, Local Heroes, analyses the impact of devolution.
We're entering into a period of large-scale regeneration in Nottingham. It's an exciting time. That's a once-in-a-generation opportunity.
Shaping Places, the procurement specialists who are helping councils build more for less.
All of the multi-storey blocks of flats in Aberdeen were heated electrically. It was found that the majority of people living in these blocks were actually living in fuel poverty.
And benefits of delivering power to the people, how Aberdeen Council is turning up the heat. Hello and welcome to Promoting Excellence. In this programme, we investigate the seismic shift in local government, how it is funded and its role in our communities. Now, as funding becomes increasingly devolved, we are seeing game-changing developments in economic self-reliance and bold new initiatives to ensure the social, economic and environmental well-being of local authorities. These are challenging, yet some would say reinvigorating times. And joining me in the studio to discuss the impact of this new economic environment are APSE's Chief Executive Paul O'Brien and the Corporate Director of Nottingham City Council, Andy Vaughan. The impact of these financial changes cannot be overstated. So what would you see as the main challenges and the main opportunities? Paul, why don't you start?
Yeah, lots of challenges, Natasha. I think one of the biggest fundamental changes is devolution. We know that things are being localised by 2020, in particular finance. We know that that's going to fundamentally change the way things are. We know there's a lot less funding.
So to say it's a seismic shift is no overstatement, is it? It really is a fundamental shift in the way that we operate.
Absolutely. I mean, you're talking about for generations, local government has been financed in a certain way, and now we're changing to a situation where 100% of that finance is going to have to be raised at a local level from local business rates, from council tax and from other small income generation measures. So that's hugely challenging. We're going to get some freedoms as a result of that devolution, but it could be a poison chalice in some senses. We could get all these additional responsibilities without the funding to deliver on them. However, that's a challenge for local government. That's a challenge for leaders in local government to move forward, create innovative solutions on behalf of their communities. Because if they don't, who else is going to do it? Who's going to be out there acting on behalf of residents and communities in that local area? It's local government's job. We need to provide the community leadership.
Andy, let's move to you. I mean, it's a very quick learning curve for everybody, isn't it, really? The whole financial landscape is changing fundamentally. Is local government prepared, do you think, for this new relationship and this new responsibility with its communities?
I don't think we've got a choice, have we? And I think we have to be prepared, and this is really our leadership moment in local government. If you look at Nottingham, we've saved £100 million out of our budgets in the last 5 years, but we have another £35 million to save by the 1st of April next year. The cuts that local government are facing are relentless, and that really forces us to reimagine and change the way we provide public services in order to survive.
New commercial realities totally taking shape. Do you feel that you're coping as a local government?
Yeah, I think the problem we've got is that around 75% of our budget is spent on adult social care and children in care. So commercialising in those areas, which is 75% of our net expenditure, is tough and is difficult. In other areas, absolutely, we're driving incredibly hard at commercialism, not for the sake of commercialism for its own purpose, but profit for a purpose, to reinvest in those vital services that we provide to citizens. So I would say commercialism is helping to dampen the impact of the cuts. I'm not certain that therefore means there'll be no impact of the cuts on people within the city.
There's only a very small percentage of the public who interact with those services at any given point in time, and the public very often care about those sort of livability services, those, are the street lights working, is the public realm safe, is it clean, is it green? Those sort of things are what the public are interested in, the majority of them, but budgets-wise, a lot of that budget's spent on the likes of adult social care that only a small percentage of the community are interacting with at any given point in time.
It's a falsehood, Paul, isn't it? And I hear described is the choice between universal service provision, and social behaviour, clean streets, parks, and adult social care, looking after our most vulnerable, often at the end of their lives.
Yeah.
That's a real falsehood. We have to deliver both of those services, and how we do that is one of our great leadership challenges.
Yeah.
Indeed it is. Self-sufficiency, is that an achievable target overall, would you say?
I think where we're at present, I think there's a long-term vision that government has about that, but where we're at present, it's obviously going to be hugely challenging for some of the most deprived, some of the poorest communities at present. If you're moving to 2020 to a situation where you're going to be reliant on business rates and council tax predominantly, with other small charges, then for some areas where they've had ingrained economic problems for decades, they're going to struggle to hit self-sufficiency right away, if they ever will. So there will need to be some form of redistribution mechanism at a local level to take account of deprivation, and poverty. But we really need to be focused on tackling these things from a commercial perspective, but with public values.
You've got a choice, haven't you? You can either be crushed by the budget and withdraw and cut services, withdraw from our communities, or you can choose to adopt a different, more enlightened, we would say, strategy. And I think that's what we're trying to do on energy, but it's also what we're trying to do on transport, it's what we're trying to do on leisure, it's what we're trying to do across all of the services within Nottingham. But transformation is almost day-to-day business. We are still an organisation that spends £800 million each year. We have an awful lot of spending power. We have an awful lot of opportunity. We operate in very diverse and different and large markets. If we get the leadership right and the skills right at an officer level and the political leadership and support all aligned, I think, I don't want to be too upbeat because, none of us would choose to be here, but nor do we need to be destroyed by the financial challenges that are ahead of us.
OK, well, we look forward to following the journey and to meeting you both again soon and talking through all of the things that we've discussed today. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Is there an inevitability to the devolution of power to local authorities and a case for the 100% retention of business rates? Well, some believe that funding changes are a case of back to the future, to a time when councils routinely played a role in utilities and infrastructure, tackling the big issues within society like housing and welfare. In our two-part series, Local Heroes, reporter John Briggs investigates the reinvigoration of the role of municipal authorities as place shapers.
By 2020, the combined current and capital spending by UK local government will be lower than at any time since 1948. We are in uncharted waters. In fact, you might as well take everything you know about local government and throw it away.
It's been widely characterised as sink or swim localism. And by that, authorities either sink or they swim. And so, in a sense, it is uncharted territory and it needs a new approach. My concern is, in stark reality, I think there will be some councils that will be treading water, just trying to survive. And I do worry that some actually will not be able to find a way of raising business rates and council tax in order to actually address the funding gap.
That funding gap became very clear back in 2010 with what was called the perfect storm, the combination of cuts in vital public services against a backdrop of rising unemployment and an ageing population very much in need of them. The suspicion was that local government was seen as low-hanging financial fruit, and while local councils saw government grants slashed by almost 30%, Whitehall was trimming its own budgets by a mere 8%. The solution was for local government to start thinking differently.
These councils and local councils are increasingly going to play one of the leading roles in regenerating local communities and moving communities forward.
But one of the problems is making the local electorate aware of these initiatives. When asked if they could remember seeing something that their council tax might have been spent on, the response isn't encouraging.
Not a clue.
No?
Not a clue.
Can't remember. Oh, I don't know.
Just keeping the streets clean. A lot of people just make the whole street dirty, so they're just keeping the streets clean. They spend money on that.
Not got a clue.
Not really, no.
They don't spend money on anything, they spend it on themselves.
One way of ensuring that your voters know what you're doing is to get them to do it for you. Local parks come under the heading of livability services. In other words, they could be in the firing line when budgets are tight. Leicester City Council helps to keep its parks running by using volunteers.
We've got them on parks and open space on a whole raft of projects. So we've got them, people who do sort of general stuff in terms of litter picking their local community area. Then we've got people involved in community projects such as conservation areas, nature areas, normal horticultural tasks in parks, but also people who would go on the water, like the riverside here.
There is a danger, though, that councils can become too reliant on volunteers, isn't there?
We're careful that we don't actually take over the core work. And what the volunteers do is they add benefit and extra to the actual service we offer. In Leicester, we've seen a big increase in trend in terms of volunteering. It's just under 70,000 volunteer hours last year. To that point, we've actually put more resources into actually managing the process, and we've got a volunteer manager soon to be appointed.
Everybody'd like a big pot of money. It's just not there, and that pot of money we do get is reducing year on year, and this is where volunteers are sort of holding their hands up and coming in and saying yes, we can help. Hopefully it will grow with a partnership of both the public wanting to look after their street scene, wanting to own their streets and telling people not to drop litter, and it's a joint partnership where we can all work together and make sure that Leicester keeps clean.
There are those who say that this is a return to local government as it was originally designed to work. But for Stephen Griggs, there's simply no previous reference for this situation.
Don't like the notion of let's go back to what local authorities were, because it implies that we're going back to some 1970s style bureaucratic service delivery. That went a long time ago. What we need to do is recognise the role and move away from the dominant narrative of local authorities, which has been this enabling council, and move towards what's been called a more ensuring council, which takes its responsibility for stewardship and actually has a much more active engagement and active view of how it manages and works with local communities.
The built environment is an essential contributor to local economic growth and quality public service delivery. But funding pressures, resource availability and an expanding population have made it increasingly difficult to procure services efficiently and to deliver ongoing value. Scape Group has been helping the public sector successfully improve their assets, infrastructure and estate for more than 10 years. Lucy Siegel reports.
What do you do when world-class businesses outgrow your city's space? Well, here in Nottingham, they think they've got the answer. The city's east side is where the discovery of ibuprofen took place, intrinsically linked with pharmaceutical research and development. And now Nottingham City Council is expanding the BioCity campus, setting the standard for regeneration. And Nottingham City Council has once again elected to work with Scape Group after a successful track record of delivery using Scape frameworks on key projects.
Every project I've ever been involved in as a councillor has had to be delivered on a tighter budget than we initially thought, and it's just the way it works. So if you don't have in place a framework that allows you to work innovatively around those costings, then you never get them over the line. And with Scape we found over the last few years that actually we can be creative, we can drive down cost but maintain quality, and that's why we use Scape.
Over 10 years, Scape has completed over 2,000 projects nationwide. They've also broadened their range of frameworks to help the public sector deliver procurement efficiencies across the entire public estate. The head office now houses 6 distinct businesses, including Lungfish, an architectural practice specialising in public and educational buildings.
We are an efficiency organisation, so we try and make the public sector more efficient, but we do specialise in the built environment. And we have a range of products and services now that enables them to be more efficient and essentially save taxpayers a load of money. We're the first organisation in the country to procure a national construction framework. That was the first of its kind in the UK, and it's something we're really proud of.
So what does all this add up to for the client?
They get access to a quick solution in terms of getting their projects or commissions on site and live. They've no need to go through a traditional tendering process that you would usually do, so it saves them months. And because we're at such a size now that we're able to collaborate across 700 different clients, a large client base, we're able to get real value.
There is no doubt that every pound counts, so getting the procurement process right is crucial.
Traditionally, local government, we would have gone out to tender on our own and gone through the procurement process, but actually that is very time consuming, and in the austerity that we've had, our security of future funding has just disappeared. So to be able to do a procurement quickly is very, very difficult. To have the ability to go to a SCAPE framework contract makes it so much easier, as well as having all of the expertise that sits within SCAPE to help you to get through the process.
Procurement and the skill to good procurement is to make it easier for the client to purchase something and they know what they're going to get for that price. And the construction industry has had a history of being full of contracts and complications and added extras, hidden extras. And that's certainly not what SCAPE's about.
BioCity is an example of how the SCAPE framework helps clients utilise the local supply chain. On this project, the glazing work is being carried out by local firm Bonham and Berry.
It's very important for Bonham and Berry to win a large contract in Nottingham and for us to employ local people. It's the site that everybody will pass by and be inspired by.
We're entering into a period of large-scale regeneration in Nottingham. It's an exciting time. That's a once-in-a-generation opportunity to not only change our city and make it better, change our economy, but also give chances to young people, in particular in this city, who want to be part of these projects, and we want them to be part of these projects too.
Young people like Nathan Taylor, a 21-year-old management trainee apprentice at BioCity.
Pretty much all of this project has been new for me. The concrete frame, I've never done that before. It's got lots of different aspects I've never experienced myself before, so it's a really good learning curve for me. So yeah, it's been really enjoyable up to now. This opportunity, invaluable really. I wouldn't be where I am without that opportunity.
Reducing fuel poverty and meeting national carbon reduction standards are challenging objectives for local government. One solution is setting up community heat and power schemes, but entering the energy sector brings with it formidable risks. UX Energy has more than 20 years' experience in energy procurement and risk management. And as Robin Ross reports, in places like Aberdeen, they're generating more than just heat.
Aberdeen, the granite city. According to the Met Office, on average, Aberdeen is the coldest city in the UK, which means it's important that people can afford to heat their homes. Which is why in 2002, Aberdeen Council established Aberdeen Heat and Power, an independent not-for-profit company. Its aim is to cut fuel poverty in the city's multi-storey blocks.
Of the multi-storey blocks of flats in Aberdeen, of which there are 59 blocks, were heated electrically. It was found that the majority of people living in these blocks were actually living in fuel poverty.
To help people pay their bills, the company installed a district heating system to supply hot water and heat to the tower blocks and some public buildings. So far, there are 4 local generators providing heat and hot water to 33 blocks. Residents have individual control over the amount of energy they use. Long gone are the expensive storage heaters that cost up to £25 a week.
For those that are connected to the district heating, we charge a set fixed rate of £10.54 a week, and anybody even on the lowest level of incomes can still afford to adequately heat their homes.
Traditional power stations waste heat when producing electricity. These local generators capture the heat and funnel it into a network of underground pipes that heat up the buildings, leading to lower carbon emissions and fuel consumption. The system produces electricity that is sold to the grid. 75% of their costs are purchasing gas and a third of their income is selling electricity. So to help get the best deals, Aberdeen Heat and Power has been working with UX Energy Services. It helps local authorities to buy, sell and negotiate in the energy market.
What we've done for Aberdeen Heat and Power is establish a contractual structure which gives them certainty of the gas price as the fuel for the generation units, certainty of the price that they will receive for the output of the generation units, those deals being in place for an initial 3-year term, and by having that in place, that allows them to ultimately manage and control the risk associated with their operations.
So UX have helped us through that process. They've set up framework agreements, many competitions. We can then go out and get the best price that we need.
You're always looking for something called a positive spark spread, which means that what you're paying for your gas is lower than what you're getting for your electricity.
And you get that?
And we've consistently had that by working through UX.
The government has dedicated a fund to encourage more district heating networks. It would like to see it rise from 2% to 40% by 2050.
Well, UX Energy Services is it's a wholly independent consultancy. So from that standpoint, we speak to all of the main suppliers in the industry on behalf of our clients. By being independent, we don't have any particular allegiance one way or another to a particular supplier.
In Denmark, it's full steam ahead. District heating networks are used in 63% of households. We're behind here, but things are slowly changing. In Aberdeen, 200 new council houses are being built and the pipes are being laid to connect them to the network. But there are strict regulations.
As a public sector entity, Aberdeen Heat and Power has to undertake its procurement in line with the relevant regulations. UX worked with the group to make sure that that was indeed the case and all the relevant compliance structures and requirements were met.
Janice is retired from Aberdeen Heat and Power, but is still a volunteer.
We haven't got everybody in Maltese out of fuel poverty yet. Not everybody is connected. I'll retire for a second time when we've got all 59 Maltese connected.
Coming up on Promoting Excellence, a hand up, not a hand out, an innovative approach to helping those in need.
We've all got a smartphone. We'll meet a smart bin. I've come to Brighton to see how merging technologies are revolutionising rubbish collection.
A new way of looking at enforcement that's more than just the ticket for local councils.
I've only been doing this 3 months, but in the future there's the risks that are there for using with the vibrations. In the future it could lead to massive problems.
And new wearable technology to tackle one of our most common industrial injuries. In the first part of our series, Local Heroes, Professor Stephen Griggs explained how devolution and the impact of financial changes is reinvigorating the role of municipal authorities as place shapers. In part 2 of Local Heroes, we look at how municipal entrepreneurialism has become an opportunity to enhance services. Here's John Briggs again.
Municipal entrepreneurialism, one of those meaningless bureaucratic titles, or is it the panacea to the shortfall in local government funding? Professor Stephen Griggs says it's more than just the commercialisation of services.
I would see it as a much broader strategy of stewardship, of ensuring social justice across communities and broadly intervening in markets and taking the lead in certain markets where there's market failure.
Liverpool City Council is no stranger to taking the lead. This capital of culture with a destination waterfront is proof positive of how far the city has come.
People come to Liverpool, and when they come to Liverpool they say, this is one of the most beautiful cities we've been to, the friendliest people we've ever met. I personally think it's the coolest city in the country.
And it's all very well being a cool city, but you've got to be a city that can afford to be cool. So how do you make up the shortfall? How inventive do you have to be?
You're absolutely right, and if you look at the council tax base that we have, our council tax bands APSE are one of the lowest in the country, so the amount of money that we get coming in, if we put a 1% increase up, we get around about £1 million. We are a really imaginative city. An example of that would be, we bought the Cunard building, stunningly beautiful building that was almost 2/3 empty. It's now 3/4 full. It's now generating income for the city. It's worth almost 1/3 more than what it was that we bought it for. So if you look at the cruise liner, another day, another cruise liner into Liverpool. We made a decision that we wanted to be a destination city. When a cruise liner comes in, it brings around about £1 million to the local economy. It means more people are coming in, it means more jobs are being created.
And the visitors don't just flock to the dockside either.
Libraries were cited as the services that were originally most at risk when local government looked at cutting services. But Liverpool not only improved the traditional,
they built a whole new state-of-the-art facility right alongside it.
Since Liverpool won the bid and became European Capital of Culture in 2008, I think the city got its confidence back through actually being able to portray what a fantastic city this is. We've seen a growth in tourism. This library itself is the in the top 3 of tourist attractions within Liverpool. It shows that sort of we're committed to improving facilities for our communities as a whole, and obviously people being able to express themselves, be that through books, through exhibitions in this library, or through our work with our mental health partners, has really had a benefit for the city as a whole.
Liverpool Football Club. Anfield's been the scene of some pretty big successes for this city, but it's not just the football fans around here who are winning. The council's housing department has kicked off something special too.
Right, like most cities, we've got a problem with empty properties. And one of our housing strategies is to bring those empty properties back into use. But one of our more innovative ideas is Homes for £1. And under that scheme, we take properties that are in a pretty bad state, pretty well derelict properties that we own, and we offer them to residents. You've got to be a Liverpool City resident for £1. You've got to commit to live there for 5 years. You've got to have the funds to bring the house up to an acceptable standard. You've got to be determined. You've got to be a pretty strong kind of person really to take it on. And we've been inundated with requests for those homes for £1.
There are those people who turn around and said, though, it's a bit of a PR puff. It's a publicity stunt. But it was more than that, wasn't it?
It is, but it is also a PR puff because it gets people interested in empty homes. So we don't mind that, that there's a lot of people talking about it.
So Liverpool is thriving. And it may be over 50 years since Merseyside's favourite Four Sons played live in the city. But there is a distinct belief that however rough the waters get, we can work it out.
We are just in the process of setting our next 3-year budget for the city, and we recognise this is going to be a really difficult task for everybody involved. We'll do it through all different ways. We'll be holding meetings within our local communities. We've developed an app so that people can work out budgets for themselves and see what difference it can make. But that's a really difficult one for us all, and it's going to be very tough. But we will get through it, and the city will continue to grow and flourish.
Smart bins that tell you when they're full are set to revolutionise waste management throughout the UK. Egbert Taylor Group, which supplies 90% of the UK's metal bins to local authorities, is rolling out new waste management solutions that increase efficiencies, cut CO2 emissions and reduce collection vehicle movements. John Gibson got up very early for this report.
It's 6 a.m. in Brighton, and at Brighton and Hove City Council's Waste Management Centre, the refuse collectors are heading out. Of course, running a fleet like this isn't cheap, but thanks to new smart bin technology, every vehicle that leaves this depot can target just the bins that are full, saving time and money by missing out those that don't need emptying. It's all thanks to these bin-mounted sensors, which enable the council to remotely monitor how much rubbish each bin contains.
What you have here is an ultrasonic sensor. We've put it at an angle here, so it's aiming into the centre of the bin. Every 2 hours, the bin will wake up, it takes a reading, and we set a pre-level threshold of what people want to say is 75% full or 80% full of the bin that they actually want to come out and actually empty it.
A traffic light-based system highlights problem areas on an online map.
For the council here, what they've actually looked at is 0 to 65% is down as green, so no need to react to it, and anything over 65 to 85 is amber, so it now goes on an alert, and then you have red, so anything over 85%, we need to actually make sure that's collected today. There's also an SLA system, that service level agreements that some councils will have to come out and service. They can also put that into the schedule that make sure that they are hitting their commitments as well.
But as well as retrofitting sensors to bins, Egbert Taylor Group also provides solutions where technology is delivering multiple benefits, such as those found on Brighton's busy seafront. At the heart of the Big Belly is this solar-powered waste compacting device, which can increase bin capacity by up to 8 times and cuts down on collections. That's great news for council taxpayers and the environment.
This is the main dashboard. What we've got at the moment is we've got 4 on green, so that means all good, doesn't need to be emptied. This one's amber, so that will mean that the crew will go and collect that one shortly. It just means you can do much more effective planning. So if you look over here, we're currently running on 87% efficiency, and if we go to reports, and then collection summary. This is where the collections were before, which as you can see is just over 20. And since we placed the bins, you can now see that it's just under 2.
Were you surprised by how much of a difference it's made?
Yeah, very. I think we all expected some reduction, but to see that sort of reduction, massively changes the way we manage the operation.
The system provides a complete audit trail using real-time data, transforming the way the council operates its waste and recycling services.
We did 2 trials, one in the very busy city centre, including the main train station, one in a suburban setting. And what we found is that they require 80% less emptying trips than our conventional types of refuse bin. So that means we can free up our staff to work on other things, such as tackling fly tipping. The fact that they will reduce vehicle movements and lower carbon is really important in a city that is very environmentally aware. And this fits in entirely with the council's own drive to use digital technology to communicate with our residents in a more efficient way.
The whole objective here is to enable local authorities to think smarter. There's so much downward pressure on local authorities' budgets. Doing yesterday's job better is not sufficient. They need to find new ways of working. They can see the cost savings immediately.
And after successful trials, Brighton and Hove City Council is joining an ever-growing number of councils that are harnessing the power of digital technology to increase efficiencies, reduce the operational cost of waste collection and enable cost savings to be reinvested into other frontline services.
It is increasingly difficult for local authorities to deliver social care to the vulnerable in their communities, particularly in a changing funding environment. Some are turning to Caris grants, who are helping councils and other organisations develop innovative approaches that turn policy into practical help. Marvarine Cole reports.
2.9 million people in the UK are struggling to manage their debts. Sharisha's elderly mum is ill and the family now has mounting gas bill debts.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so that's your gas bill and your utility rates.
He's a priority case, vulnerable and on a low income. People in the same position can apply via Caris for help from the multi-million-pound funds created by some of the UK's biggest energy companies. Here in East London, funded advisors are trained by Caris to offer specialist energy advice and make applications for debt and other help.
Last week I had a client and I just reassured her, we explained the situation, we'd done the application. Before she left, she gave me a hug and she's like, I know we haven't got the results, but just coming to see you and just doing the application, talking to you has made me feel 100 times better. I can go home and sleep peacefully because she was losing sleep. That's how stressed she was. So those sort of things, it just really makes your job worthwhile.
You may notice something missing. There aren't many signs, and that encourages people to come inside and ask for help. They get integrated support and more at the GP surgery, the Connection Zone or the cafe. The third sector continues to face funding challenges, as do many local authorities who've taken on the social fund due to recent welfare reforms. Caris's expertise speeded up the provision of essential practical help in Cambridgeshire, all by authorising a network of qualified professionals who make applications to the assistance scheme on behalf of claimants.
The client probably would have known them, so they could have been a housing officer, they could have been a social worker, they could have been a health worker, they could have been a GP. There was no restriction on people registering as an authorised agent. And in the end, we had about 400 across the county in Cambridgeshire.
Health and community care experience, coupled with strategy and policy expertise, means Caris takes a balanced approach when devising schemes.
Caris is unique in that it has a shared programme, so for all our trusts and funds and schemes that we run, and there's lots of them, what we do is try and pass people through as many as we can for which they are eligible, so that we maximise the help that they can have. We now have a range of very, very wonderful trusts and funds that can offer people debt help, but they can also offer them funeral help, and they can offer them bankruptcy help. They can deal with other priority bills, they can have white goods, they can have a bed. We're able to help them more holistically, to stand them back on their feet.
As an innovator and enabler continually creating social value, Caris helps to enrich people's lives. It's developed an e-learning programme which is offered through E.ON's new energy fund via customer vouchers.
The voucher gives them access to a suite of online courses, everything from the basics of Microsoft programs to a CV builder, all the way to some really advanced qualifications, which could really support somebody getting into a completely different career or back into the jobs market. You know, if somebody's been a carer and been out of the workplace for some time, this can really unlock so much support for them.
Partnerships flourish and people gain confidence whenever Caris is involved. It's been funding special projects with the Bromley by Bow Centre for 5 years.
When you work together over a long period of time, not only do you begin to understand each other as two separate organisations, but you also begin to maximise the benefits that you can create through the funding and through the resourcing that's able to come through.
Since 2011, Caris has run the Ofgem regulated warm home discount scheme for several energy suppliers, meeting total compliance.
We monitor and regularly carry out impact reports to demonstrate that the services we're providing are extremely effective. For anybody across the UK, any company, any organisation looking to develop their CSR policy, I would say that coming to Caris is a very cost-effective option, and we would welcome talking to you.
With the shape of local government changing dramatically, revenue generation is becoming critically important. Well, one of the UK's leading outsourcing companies, NSL, is helping councils generate that much-needed income and think differently about their frontline resources. As Joanna Simpson reports from Warwickshire, it's a multifunctional approach that's reaping significant benefits.
Probably your best bet would be you're right next to the main town.
NSL, which is partnered with the majority of councils, is training its staff to do more than just issue tickets. Here in Warwickshire, they offer tourist advice on directions or where to eat. Ian is born and bred in Leamington Spa and knows just how to help his community.
I would say on the course of a day you probably help at least twice as many people as you issue tickets with directions, assistance, all sorts of different things. So that the biggest part of the job is dealing with the general public, not issuing tickets on cars.
Traffic enforcement officers, according to NSL, are becoming the eyes and ears of the council, and this is also benefiting the community. If, for example, they notice post or milk building up outside someone's house, they can investigate to see if that person needs help. They're even being trained to spot signs of dementia, which here in Warwickshire is a particular problem, as well as it is across the rest of the UK.
Councils have to do a lot more today with a lot less. And of course, parking enforcement, parking wardens, civil enforcement officers, these are not the only people out in the community, but you also have environmental officers. You have people looking at trade waste and so on and so forth. So in today's challenges of austerity, the key is for a council to make the most of their frontline officers, to do a lot more with a lot less.
NSL says it's generated £224 million of revenue surplus for councils, which can be reinvested back into communities. When NSL became partners with Warwickshire County Council in 2014, many of the staff who'd been working directly for the council transferred to continue their role with NSL.
We had a very fragmented process, and we were actually looking to consolidate around one provider. NSL won the deal and so far have delivered on target the savings that we were required. That was 540,000. By 2017, they're on target to deliver the best part of £1 million, which was what we needed to take out of the system. The main issue was the lack of consistency right across the piece, and NSL have brought consistency. And I think the public expect consistency, they expect fairness, and it's a far better and a far fairer system.
As well as the traditional training to enable them to do their job to the highest standards, NSL employees here learn about dementia. The company also says it's committed to helping its employees progress, and last year 1,800 gained further qualifications relevant to their role. Though NSL says it's the market leader for parking enforcement, it also has a number of other roles. It protects £6 billion of the Treasury's revenue by clamping and removing untaxed vehicles, which are often also uninsured. Its partnership with the DVLA uses automatic number plate recognition to check the tax status of a vehicle and remove it where necessary. It's also helping councils with environmental enforcement, issuing on-the-spot fines for dropping litter.
We are working with councils to deploy a multi-function workforce enabled by technology that enables these frontline colleagues to be the eyes and ears of the council and the first interaction with a resident or a business. Rather than have 3 or 4 different representatives from an authority or from the government coming and helping you do something, wouldn't it be better if we, as a resident, as a business owner, as a visitor to a city, can just talk to one person and get the information and the support that we need?
As councils continue to find savings where they can, along with needing to generate greater revenue, NSL says it's happy to assist with enforcement in a diverse range of areas.
Thanks a lot.
No problem, you're welcome.
Power tool use is the cause of one of the most common industrial injuries in the UK, hand-arm vibration syndrome, an incurable and debilitating condition that is preventable. It is estimated by the Health and Safety Executive that up to 2 million UK workers are currently exposed to a potentially harmful level of hand-arm vibration. Reporter Nick Thatcher investigates Reactech's wearable monitoring equipment designed to help prevent injury in the workplace.
Any employee who works regularly and frequently with manual power tools runs a risk of developing hand-arm vibration syndrome. It's a debilitating, painful, incurable condition known as HAVS for short, and responsible employers like the Murphy Group work hard to assess and identify measures to reduce or eliminate exposure to it.
You know, it's not something that you want to end up with, so you've got to do your best to sort of avoid it.
I've only been doing this 3 months. But in the future, the risks that are there for using with the vibrations, in the future it could lead to massive problems.
And this is what they're trying to avoid: painful and disabling disorders of the blood vessels, nerves and joints localized to the hands and arms that often develop many years later. The most well-known condition is vibration white finger, and once the damage is done, it's permanent. Nearly 2 million people in the UK are at risk of HAVS, and more than 300,000 have advanced symptoms. As recently as 2014, there were another 830 new cases. And the costs of HAVS to the UK economy are estimated at £700 million each year. But the risks are not confined to a small group of workers.
Heavy civil engineering like this is what we usually associate with vibration, but regular use of any power tool can potentially cause hand-arm vibration.
So back at the Murphy Group body shop in North London, they're trialling a new wrist-worn monitoring device that collects detailed data on the period and level of vibration faced by each individual. Havware recognises the different power tools being used through tags, and not only alerts the user should prescribed levels of vibration be exceeded, but also collects real-time data that can then be analysed for management action locally or at a central level.
Previously, all risk assessments were based on assuming a tool had one behaviour. It doesn't. Havware, for the very first time, will tell you what happens to the tool user while he's using the tool, because we're sensing the vibration on the wrist. And that data is then available for the managers of the employees and the managers of the tools to understand, are their tools behaving properly and are there people using the tools properly? And that is a piece of information they've never had before.
And for companies and local authorities where there is a high variety of work across widely deployed teams, this secure yet accessible cloud-based information can prove invaluable in managing risks for individual employees, as well as reducing an organisation's overall exposure to litigation.
It's the data that really does assist the organisation in being able to look and improve, obviously, in terms of hand-arm vibration controls and risk assessments. The data does provide the different structures to be able to look at the tools and the operators at quite a granular detail.
The paper system we used previously didn't allow us to record accurate records and was very time consuming from an individual and project perspective. The hardware system allows us to record accurate records on every tool used by the operative, and if anyone has an issue with hand-in vibration, then it allows us to lower the parameters within the hardware system, protect that individual in the future.
I think it's very good that any employer protects its employees as regards risk to sort of damaging their health and welfare. So it's whether it's Murphy's or whatever other group, you know, investing in your people and keeping them safe is a good thing.
Reactech's new wearable technology is taking the guesswork out of assessing employees' exposure to vibration and helping to keep them safe. For when it comes to haves, prevention is the only cure.
And that was our final report in this programme. But if you'd like to watch any of our stories again, you'll find Promoting Excellence on the APSE website. We hope you've enjoyed the programme, and until I see you again, from me and the team, goodbye.
you